Welcome to Focus and Foundations. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Tina Kramer. I am the creator of Simple Learning and the patent pending sound device, and I am here with my dear friend, Kelley. Kelley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. My name is Kelley Phipps, and I own Empowering Minds. And it's a place where we work with adults and children that have any number of learning or social issue that might stem from disorientation. So Tina and I have been gathering together pretty regularly now just to share with you through this podcast. And today we really want to explore a little more from a 2,000-foot level, the idea of motivation and what makes us motivated. So Tina, you want to tell us just a little bit about your story you were telling me earlier?
I had a family that I worked with that they had a third grader. He was a very sweet young man, and he was having trouble getting homework done. And it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to the teacher. It didn't make sense to the parents. He was bright. And there was just confusion there for him about actually getting his homework done. So all the questions, like all the things that teachers and parents look for, the answer was yes. Everything was okay, except for the fact he still wasn't getting the homework done. So he found himself in the situation that he was being held in for recess because he wasn't turning his assignments in and getting them finished. And of course, when you're in the third grade, you're thinking a lot more about being outside of recess than you are about getting your assignments done. So took time to sit down with him and really break apart that step by step as to why he wasn't turning his homework in, because I needed to find, and usually it's a small place, I needed to find the break. I needed to find the gap to where his learning difference was presenting the problem and it was presenting the challenge. Interestingly enough, in his case, he would get one thing from the morning work turned in, and in his mind, he was all good. He was done. So if it was his English paper, then he didn't need to do spelling and he didn't need to do math. Or if he turned math in, he didn't need to do English and he didn't need to do spelling. And he did not realize that turning your homework in meant all subjects and all homework. And when we work with individuals that have learning differences, sometimes that sounds absurd.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're a person that's listening, you've got to be kidding. That child knew. But I can assure you he did not, because the thing that changed when I got him to understand turning your homework in means all of your homework, not just one. Then we saw him turn everything in. He was well on his way. He didn't miss any more recesses, and he was pretty much B average in all of his subjects. So Kelley, we talked before, we're actually going to break this motivation down and try to make it as simple as we possibly can. So do you want to share that definition so we can help people understand how we're looking at our clients and help them be able to bridge those gaps?
Absolutely. So the idea of motivation it's simply an urge to control something. It comes from just an aspect of what's in it for me, right? And that is where I see a lot of clients is what's in it for me? Why should I do this? And if what is being needed to be accomplished, if there's no tie to the self, to the individual, they don't even see it as theirs. So why should I do it? And so then you see on the other end, you see nothing. So the way I kind of am looking at my world and I see individuals, I'm at the end of something. I am looking for a result. So I'm sitting at the effect of either someone completing their work or not completing their work. I'm at the end of it. And so I can only look back and say, well, why didn't this happen? And in our neurotypical world, we oftentimes say, well, they lack motivation. They can't get it done. They're not, and so we talk about, we got to build motivation. We got to build motivation. Well, how do you do that? Can I motivate you? We listen to motivational speakers. What do they say that makes us want to do anything? Tina, do you listen to motivational speakers sometimes?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And I want to point out your language because we take very literally what we're saying. You said, what do we want?
Mhm.
And so that is key, that want.
Yeah.
So when we talk about a want is actually internal. All right. And usually it's wanting something that we don't have. Or it can be something that we do have, or we want more of it. So, I want world peace. I also want to eat ice cream and not gain weight. But that's a want, the thing. But then we have to be able to look at what do we need. Now, the need satisfies the want in the physical world. And I'm going to turn this back over to you, Kelley. But sometimes our clients, they actually do know what they want. However, they don't realize that to get what they want, they actually have to have a need that they satisfy the want with in the physical world. So say more about it.
Okay, so I've got a perfect story for this. All right. I think I mentioned before, I have many children. That means I have experienced adolescence many times. So I have wonderful, I do have wonderful children. So just to preface that as I tell their stories. So a number of years ago, one of my daughters was about 13, and she wanted boots so bad. And she'd say to me, I want boots, Mom. Mom, I gotta have boots. Mom, I need boots. I need boots. And I'd say, no, you need tennis shoes. And she goes, I need boots. I gotta have boots. So we'd go back and forth over this. Now, I had a lovely friend who walked me through this situation at the time because I was a frustrated parent, because I didn't have the money to buy those boots. And I saw that she, in actuality, was lacking in the level of tennis shoes. That was me as a mom, right? Not the 13-year-old. And so I posed this as help me get through this. And this gentleman says to me, well, Kelley, she wants boots. So what does she need? I said, she needs tennis shoes. He said, no, she needs boots. I'm like, what? Hello, get on my side. I'm the mom. He said, no, she needs boots. What is going to get her to stop? I said, boots. She needs boots. Buying her boots. Then I didn't say I'd buy her boots. She needs boots. Okay. How's she going to get the boots? Well, I said, she needs money. Oh, now she needs money. So what does she want? I want money. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, how are you going to get the money? Oh, I need a job. I'm 13. What can I do? I can babysit, or I could pick up dog poop, or I could any number of things, right? That a 13-year-old could do. And then all of a sudden, I want a job. I want to babysit. Who can I babysit for? Knock on my neighbor's doors. When are you going to leave? Can I babysit for you? Right? So then we've got this scenario going. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Seriously, would that work? And guess what? It worked. Absolutely, it worked. Because in the end, we were driven by what fulfills us. And the thing that's going to fulfill me, or fulfill that desire that I have, okay, is going to come from the outside of me. Because if I wasn't aware of that thing out there, I would never want it. Okay. And if it's available to me, then I could have it. So I have to figure out, how do I make that thing available to me? Now, motivation is tied to because we know that motivation is not action. We look back at the inaction and we say they lack motivation. Well, what is motivation? It's kind of just sitting there until we act. But you're not going to be able to act unless there's a possibility to fulfill or for that action to do something. In my daughter's situation, there was an opportunity. There was an opportunity to do what she needed to do, and she already had some skills. So she knew how to babysit. If she didn't know how to babysit, she would have to learn how to babysit. Or she'd have to wait till she got older to earn her own money. Or she'd have to save maybe birthday money. Or, any number of ways she could have done what she needed to do. But lots of times we sit there and we're defeated, right? And that's what I experience from my students that I work with and my children, and even from me sometimes as having a learning difference or a neurodivergent type person, thinker, is that I get defeated. My stamina for approaching the brick wall, right? Which isn't really a brick wall. Maybe it's a little hill. My stamina for that it's not as strong as maybe my neighbors who can just jump right over that little thing, right? And so I have to figure out other ways to do that. And if I don't, then I look like I'm not motivated. I look like I don't know, because I can't seem to get myself up and over those humps that are approached or that are there in front of me because I have a desire to have something and I don't know, maybe I don't know what it is, or maybe I don't know how to get it. And so then I'm stuck.
And there are so many different ways to be able to pull this apart. And I think that's part of the gifts of the work that we actually do. So I've told this story before about the gentleman that wanted to clean his garage. In order for him to clean his garage by himself, it took him all day. But if he had a friend come over, that friend sat in a lawn chair, he would always say, I got him a 6-pack of beer, and then he could clean the garage in the matter of 2 hours. And I think that's where you see you're talking about going over that fence. In that example of that gentleman cleaning his garage, it's just not so simple as motivation. That is having a clear identity of self, realizing who you are. I also use the example, it's kind of like having a remote control car. And then in having that remote control car, your remote is kind of broken. It'll still work. It'll still do what you need it to do, but you got to work harder at it. You got to fiddle. You got to do different things to be able to get there. And that's almost what it's like when you have a learning difference. We have this supercomputer. We think what minimum 32 pictures per second. I think it might be more than that, actually.
For sure.
So we go so fast, but the traditional system is not giving us all the information that we need. And that's where, Kelley, that's where you and I step in, and then we can actually work with a client and start to pull things apart in such a way that we can identify the different areas. So in motivation, by looking at what motivation really is, this thing that we want, and then, okay, how do we satisfy that with your daughter? I love that the gentleman that you spoke to, he recognized, no, she needs the boots.
Yeah.
All right, but what are you going to put in place in the steps for her to actually be able to get those boots herself? What is so exciting is she had enough of a want for those boots that she was able to follow through.
And she needed to be supported.
Yeah.
Right. I think that we assume, so I'm sorry, because I just spoke into your comment, but I think we assume so much from life development that we fail to see where someone needs a little support, and they have a little support. Oh, now they can do it. It's kind of like being that spotter. You would never send a gymnast out, a little gymnast, or even a big gymnast, to go do a big move without a spotter. They can break their back.
Yeah.
And we need to look at emotional failure and failure in the area of attaining one's goals because of the whole motivation thing. I'll tell you, injuring oneself because of failure when there's not enough support to meet what you need, that can be very, very damaging for an individual, and hard to get back up and get through things.
Absolutely. We almost see Kelley, is it fair to say a disproportionate, because there is that where you actually do get hurt and you've got to get back up. And so the amount of effort it takes to get back up, it is different. It's I use that word a lot. I am talking about things that are common for neurotypicals and the individuals that have learning differences. We were just saying earlier, the developmental stages that we all go through, and experience. Sometimes we have clients that are brought to us that they have these hiccups. It actually is finding a very small thing, and then we're able to have them on their way. And this works for everybody because this is how we learn if you're a member of the human race.
Exactly. Just for the fact that we're human. There's just so much we assume. And so when I start off with a family anymore, I find myself doing this all the time. And I think, is it overkill? But I'm finding out it's not. What I do is I outline basic human development for every single parent that comes in. And if I'm working with a young adult, somewhere within their program, we will have gone over. We don't go in depth, but we talk about it, because then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, that's why he doesn't do it. I'm like, yeah, that might be where the problem is. And, and it's just wild, but it's affirming for that person who is struggling. Say, guess what? There's not anything wrong with me. I'm missing something. Can we put it in? And if we put it in, all of a sudden I'm solid and I can live a life in the end, right? That's our goal is. I think for every individual, every person in our world would like to live the life they were meant to live. And that should be the goal of anyone, and any self-help or any assisted help like you and I provide, so to help an individual live the life they were meant to live.
Yes, absolutely. We also see an imbalance, or I see an imbalance with my clients. So sometimes the things that they ought to want or do, the motivation for those, you see it not happen, but then there are things that might not be exactly age appropriate that they do want. And it's pretty amazing what they're able to figure out. There was a young gentleman that I worked with. He was 17 and he had a motivation problem. Very difficult to get him to clean his room, laundry, the things that you want a 17-year-old boy, take out the trash, be able to do. He just basically wouldn't do it. However, for him, he loved, to the point it was almost an obsession, the reality TV shows.
Oh.
And they believed that he couldn't tell time, but he never, ever missed a reality TV show. Now, he watched all of them. And if you asked him, let's say about The Voice, I don't remember anymore what time those are on, but he could tell you, that's Tuesday night at 6:00. And then, but the parents and the teachers were like, but he can't tell time. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
He absolutely can tell time. So we were able to use that to help him. So there's almost, and I'm going to say this phrase because it usually clicks with parents. It clicks with clients. I want what I want when I want it. But if I don't want it, I'm not going to do anything. There's that want word again. Kelley, can you say more about?
Absolutely. So I find myself often actually catching myself, even though I feel like I'm a seasoned professional, having a goal for my client that's not my client's goal. I do mom my students. I do. There's no way around it. It's just part of who I am.
Yeah.
And so when I see something, when something is exposed to me and I see it as something, I'm wondering if this is something that is a problem for you, and I mention it and they acknowledge it, then what I need to do is ask permission. May we discuss this? But I don't always ask permission. If I ask permission and they say, yes, we can discuss it, they open the door and now I can mom. But if they say, no, that's not something I want to do, then I have to be quiet and leave them alone because it's not important right now to them. It will be important at some point, but right now it's not. So it's not a path that is going to bring fruition. I'm not going to find an efficient solution to that. And there's going to be this happen. And so I love that everything that, and Tina, you agree, right? That everything we do, it is philosophical, but it's very based in science.
Yes.
And so we know that for every force, there's a resistance. And so me putting my stuff out there, if they don't accept it, it's met with resistance, and resistance is a pushback and a no, I'm not going to do it. But if I present it in such a way that they can accept that that's something that would be worth their while, and it doesn't matter if we're talking about an autistic individual, a 12-year-old, a 5-year-old, or a 50-year-old, it's all the same. And from every aspect, if you can present something in such a way that they can see that that's within their benefit and give someone a choice to partake or not, and then honor their choice, then you're going to see something be accomplished.
So if we even go back to your example of your daughter and her boots, we do meet and work with clients that would have wanted the boots, and you were able to take her along a path of, well, you got to make money to be able to buy and pay for your boots yourself. You and I do meet clients to where we would have had that conversation and they would have not made the connection between babysitting and them getting the boots. And
absolutely.
then we know we have to step back and we have to go a little more back in that foundation that we're helping them create in those life experiences, and then think of something that they can do to where they can make a direct correlation to the boots. After we get that want and need established and in place, then we can move them into like what you were able to do with your daughter. Okay, you got to get a job, you got to make money. What can you do to be able to buy the boots? So if we have a parent out there or somebody listening and they're like, I'll never get my loved one to make the connection between I need to work to get the boots, we actually can. However, we step back and we make that more direct, or we make that more simple. To us, it's simple, not to them necessarily. It's a process of learning that we're actually creating.
It is. It's a process of learning, and it's a foundation, one on top of the other, because we are adults. So we see things from adult perspective. Hate to reveal my age, but at 55, there is so much more that I know than I knew when I was 40, than when I was 30, than when I was 20, than when I was 10. All right. And I now have many, many lenses that I see things through. And we forget what it was like to not have all those lenses, because we're way beyond that. And this every person is guilty of this at times, is that we're looking at from our lens, not their lens. And sometimes, because we're especially with individuals who from the outside, nothing looks off. Okay, they graduated from high school. They may have had really good grades. They can drive. They can have social relationships, and yet they cannot fulfill the basic need for themselves, which usually has to do with employment. I have to tell you, they can't seem to keep a job.
Yes, it's very
So
common in
yeah,
adults.
very, very common. All right. So what we see this, and society, in my experience, is gonna put a bunch more stuff here. We'll do this and this and this and this and this and this. And notice how the person just gets shoved down. Hey, well, that didn't help them. You're not changing anything. You know, maybe they got the job, but they lost it. Right. So really what has to be is you have to come under here and let's fill in why are we missing? And maybe it's way down here, way down. And we have to fill in those holes to make that individual stronger so they can be where they need to and then do what they have to do from there. But so often we just see the problem, not the cause. We see
And then
the problem.
that's where those identities get thrown in. When people don't get the information that they need, that's where you hear the laziness, loser, all those things that you and I don't like. And we always feel so bad for especially our adult clients that have dealt with this for years. And then they come in and they've got all that negative self-talk. So we have the ability to take all that negative stuff off the top. And then, like you said, go in that foundation till we back up to where we look at that identity of self, get that identity of self in place. Then usually all of the blocks, because the part of the foundation is missing, and we put that foundation in there, and then they get incredibly strong and they have these aha moments of, well, nobody ever told me that.
Yeah,
Nobody ever realized that. And that is the work that you and I do. And so oftentimes we literally are going back to sequencing, dropping back to consequence. You and I both teach consequence very differently than the outside world. The outside world consequence oftentimes is a well-disguised punishment.
Right, for sure.
And we're not doing that. We're moving into that identity of self and looking at the individual so that they can understand, okay, what do I want? How can I get it? How can I, the individual, create this? Instead of, they don't look at it like this, but it's almost like they have to go through their life manipulating the situations or manipulating other people because they don't know who they are. And then that motivation is lost because if you're constantly having to depend on somebody else, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And then sometimes
and really, really frustrating. And frustration is a negative emotion. And there's a certain amount of feeling of frustration that one needs sometimes, but when we get it to the greatest extent, then it's a very, very disorienting feeling. And so the most frustration I've experienced in individuals is generally because this idea of I have to persevere. I have to continue. Things are not, and I know we all understand it. Everyone from a surface understands that, hello, it's not magic, right? No, nobody really can snap their fingers and then have this thing appear. But we're in a world today where they're continually seeing time distorted because if I'm watching a movie, never do we see a full day. We don't see 24 hours of someone's life. We see little snapshots of things occurring over years that took, when I saw it was an hour, right? So, I mean, that in and of itself is a distortion. The instant gratification that we get, usually we're talking about screen type things, anything like that. But I think that individuals that don't really have a true understanding of themselves don't understand the amount of effort and work that's involved in gaining the skills that they need to continue to grow and to be. They just want it now, and they don't understand why it didn't happen. And so I see lots of people stuck in that area of things. We have to really build perseverance. What different ways do you need to do something? You know, how do you actually know anything? I struggle with perseverance sometimes, definitely, because I really do, really do want a book I can put up to my head and just suck all the knowledge out of it. But it doesn't work that way, ever.
I meet clients too where they don't have this motivation, don't have this perseverance, that they move into a place of control.
Mhm.
And they control, and they almost become argumentative to the point that it's imperative to their existence to be right, based on the knowledge and the information that they have. And my heart breaks, my heart goes out to when I meet this client, because they are holding on to what is their reality so tightly that I have to get them to let that grip up just enough for me to get new information to them. So again, if you're the loved one and you're trying to help, and this individual is just like, no, it is this way, it has to be this way, and it's almost like they're arguing with their self, which they actually are, because they don't have a clear identity of who they are. And that's another symptom I see, that control, because we're missing pieces to that roadmap. And so control comes in to be able to hold life together.
Yeah. Wow. So we have really talked through this whole idea. What I'm really hoping is that those of you that are listening to us will really take a step back and think, what more might there be happening beyond the symptom that I see and that I call, wow, that person really lacks motivation. They're not very motivated to do this, or they're somehow lacking in their persona because they're not accomplishing their goals.
Yeah.
And so that as you do that, you look for more. Think, where might there be answers? And so both Tina and I have been doing this for a long time, and we'd love to share with you. We'll continue to share on our podcast different aspects. If you have found today to be of benefit to you, we just ask that you would like our channel, subscribe to us, give us some comments, some feedback. You guys might have noticed that there's something different in the back of me. We've decided we needed to move some things around a little bit.
And please ask questions, because questions are imperative to understanding. We're both educators. We both were classroom teachers, and we love questions. You know, you hear that old saying, well, no question is a dumb question. Oh, I've heard a couple, but for the most part, we want your questions so that we can better explain, because this is a whole dialogue that we're opening up to an awareness that a lot of people don't have, and we need to get it out there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm so thankful that I was exposed at the time that I was, that gave me the opportunity to ask some questions that brought me down a different road, that then truly changed the trajectory of my family's lives. And then I feel like the lives of hundreds of other families, because of what I know and what I can share. And Tina, I'm sure you feel the same, right? I mean, it's just a huge blessing. And so we love to be able to share with you.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for being with us. We are Kelley and Tina. This is Focus and Foundations, and we will catch you next week. Thank you.
Bye-bye.